Now, before we move on, let's learn a little bit about the terminal. Terminal is an old way of interacting with computers. So, long time before the mouses were introduced and touchpads and touchscreens and whatever you are using these days to interact with your tablet or computer, people, and especially programmers, were using terminal. Now, you may not believe me, but actually even today, terminal is a way faster tool to interact with the computer in a professional way. That's why you find a lot of IT administrators, or actually even the systems and servers, not having the graphical interface like we know from Windows or Mac OS. These servers, these computers in the cloud, they are all managed with the use of terminal. Let's have a look at this setup. On the left side of our screen, we can see my terminal. On the right side, we can see File Explorer, so something which you are probably familiar with. Now, you may notice that we are actually in the same folder. How can we tell that? If you look at the path, so the address of our folder, we can see that it's exactly the same. In Windows 10, you have to click here to see the full path. So it's C users MDB tutorial, C users MDB tutorial. Now, while I'm quite sure you know how to use File Explorer, so if you want to create new folder, you right click, new folder, and then give a folder name, let's say my folder. And then if you want to create a file, you want to do new file and can call it file1.txt, and let's create one more, file2.txt, and this is what you do. You also know how to operate. If you want to get into this folder, you double click and then you are inside this folder. This folder is empty, and here our address has changed. So now we can see that we are in this subfolder. If you want to go back, you press back arrow. Now let's see how we can achieve the same in terminal. So first of all, how to change the directory. In order for that, we're going to use a command called cd, which stands for change directory, and now we're going to provide a folder name, so my folder, and then we're going to get into it. You may notice that I type it quite fast. So how did I do that? I pressed tab button. So instead of typing the whole folder name like this, what I can do, I can actually make use of tab. So if I start pressing tab, the terminal will basically suggest me what are available options, because I cannot change directory into this or that because these are files, not directories. I can only go to the my folder. Therefore, if I just do cd and press tab, terminal will automatically suggest me the only possible option. If there are more options, I'm going to show you that in a second. First, let's get into this directory. So cd my folder, then enter, and now we are inside this folder. Now let's move in. As you can see, we are also there. How we can get out of the directory? Cd, and instead of a back arrow, we're gonna type double dot, and this will get us out of this directory, so we'll go one level up. Now, I mentioned about other options. I have two files here, file1 and fil2, which was supposed to be file. Let me quickly rename it. So now if I want to move my file1 into this directory, obviously with the File Explorer I can just drag and drop it over here, but I can also do it with my terminal. So I want to move, so mv, my file1, and now look at that. If I don't provide any name and press tab, it's gonna suggest me all possible options. I can move not only my files, but also directory. So my terminal will be showing me all possible options. So I can just press tab as many times as I want until I get to file1. If I want to help a little bit or don't want to browse through all of them, I can just provide the first letters of the file, and now terminal will only suggest files which are starting with the letters I provided. So now let's move this file1 into this folder. How do we do that? We need to use mv, file name which we want to move, and target location where we want to move it. So I want to put my folder and hit enter. And now, as you can see, the file disappeared from here, and we can already tell that there is something in this folder. If we go here, we can clearly see that it is there. Let's go into my folder. So now let's see how we can actually see what files are inside our directory. So in order to do that, I'm gonna use ls command. This is gonna show me all files. If I go one level up and do ls, I'm gonna see that I have file and I have folder. Now, it's a little bit difficult to tell which one is file, which one is directory. Therefore, I suggest to use ls-l, which basically stands for minus list, and this will show you list like that. This shows you more information. What we can see over here is, first of all, whether this is file or directory. So the directories will have this D at the beginning. Later on, we can see some rwx- mixes. So this is file permission. We're not going to cover this in this tutorial. A couple of more information over here about size and file date, so when the file actually was modified. And my hint over here is that I always use ls-altr, which basically shows me all files. So even if there are hidden files, you may hear of them, they are listed in descending order. So the latest files are always here, because you can imagine this file list might be very, very long. Okay, so now what else we can do with the terminal? We know how to move file up or down inside the folder, depending on how you look at that. So how can we get this file out of this folder? So we're gonna use mv for move file one. Oh no, by the way, look at that, I'm here, right? So in order to get into this folder, what I have to do, you guess? Yeah, we have to do cd my folder. So now we are in the same folder, and now I want to move my file. And now if I want to get it one level up, I just press double dot. This will move my file out of this folder and bring it back to my original folder. Okay, now we know how to move. So I want to show you one more thing, because we can use this command line move to actually rename the file. So if we say to the terminal move file1 txt to file3.txt, as you can tell, we are basically staying in the same folder, right? Because I'm not providing any other folder, I'm just providing the new name. And that's how our file1 became file3. We can obviously combine that, so I can move my file3 to our my folder, and at the same time, I want to give it a new name. Obviously, you can do that as well. New name txt, and then my file was moved and renamed at the same time. Okay, so we know how to move, we know how to move files and move ourselves. So let's learn how to actually create files and remove them from terminal. So if I want to remove file, I can simply use rm, which is shortcut for remove, and file name. Note, this will only work with files. As long as we try to use it on the folder, it will basically tell it cannot remove a folder because it's a directory. So how can we do that? First of all, we need to make sure that our folder isn't empty. So I'm gonna move, and now look carefully, because I'm gonna do something to show you why this terminal is so powerful. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move this file back here, but I'm gonna do it from here, from tutorial location. So I'm not going to get into the folder and move it out. I'm gonna move it simply by saying move, and I'm gonna provide the location of the file. So file I want to move is inside this folder, and then I want to have new name txt. By the way, note that in Windows and macOS we use different slashes and backslashes. This is important. So I want to move this folder here. So as you can see, I use dot to basically represent this place where I'm standing right now, and that's how I moved this folder here. Now, if I have set up like this, I can first of all, again, let's remind also how to remove files. So rm new name.txt, and if I want to remove directory, I'm going to use rm dir for directory, and then my folder, and that's going to remove everything. Okay, we just get rid of everything. So how can we recreate it? It's very simple. If we want to create directory, we're going to set mkdir make directory and folder name. That's going to create a folder for us, and let's create file. In order to create file, I'm going to use touch option. So new file txt. Now, one of the last thing I want to show you is that except for moving files, we can also copy them. So if I'm going to use cp, which stands for copy, and new file txt, I want to have a copy inside folder name. Voila. Now I have two versions of the same file. Now, there are many more commands which basically will help you in the future to become a better developer, but we're not going to focus on them right now. I just wanted to give you a brief first touch on how to use terminal, because the more you're going to learn about web development, the more sophisticated tools you're going to use, the more complex technology you're going to use, like React, Angular, the more terminal you're going to use. And we're going to learn about Git in other tutorials. So all these tools, they're utilizing terminal. Therefore, I strongly encourage you to learn this very well. And although it might feel a little bit awkward at the beginning, don't worry. You're going to get used to it and you're going to love it.